certain or predictable. The future is never certain or predictable. So urban planning is never able to completely anticipate all possible future developments. For this reason, urban planning also has to be adaptive and responsive to changing circumstances. This calls for periodic updating of master plans or structure plans to meet the future needs. Looking at this from the perspective of climate change, this means that urban planning has a key role in addressing climate-related issues by, for example, promoting low-carbon transport systems or providing more green spaces to absorb the gas emissions. It needs to be recognized that some sort of future effects of climate change are almost inevitable, regardless of how much effort is devoted to mitigating the causes. Thus, it is also crucial that urban planning not only acts to mitigate the causes of climate change, but also develops adaptation measures which make the city less vulnerable. Mostly, resilience tend to focus on environmental aspects and shocks, but as I said earlier, it also has other dimensions such as social and economic. Now, Lahore and all other cities in Pakistan have strong informal sectors such as commercial and many other activities which are organized in an informal way. So how can urban planning increase resilience in areas that are so informal? For this, it is important to transform vulnerabilities into opportunities. For example, it would be possible to use the strong social connections which already exist in an informal urban context to create a self-organized network to respond to future unknown shocks. So resilience is all about building social connections, and such connections can improve communication and consequently promote a quicker response to a shock. It's important to remember that a resilient system needs to work on government level, but the system has to work even when the government fails. So bottom-up and self-organizing initiatives could make the urban systems more resilient. Another issue that is relevant to our cities in this context is about financial constraints. Is it possible to apply the resilience approach in cash-starved cities? This is a complex issue. Now, in such cities, initiatives need to be more creative and better usage of available resources. Being resilient does not mean just survival of existing urban system, because cities in very hazardous conditions without garbage collection or inadequate or absent sanitation or without efficient public transport solutions, for example, can adapt and continue to function. But that does not necessarily mean that they are resilient. In other words, resilience means much more than simple continuation of a risky condition. Resilience demands more than just being adaptive. It's a combination of adaptive capacity, self-organization, and transformation. A bit about sustainability of cities. Now, sustainable development is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future generations. Now, such cities provide people with a reasonably good quality of living environment without using huge amounts of natural resources. Now, how can natural resources be used in a more sustainable way? There are many ways to achieve this. Reducing reliance on fossils is a critical challenge to sustainability. We urgently need to reduce energy use in buildings and in transport by using better technologies. Cities need to produce their own renewable energy, for example, by encouraging homeowners to install solar panels. This is already being done to some extent in Lahore and elsewhere, but a lot more needs to be done. Similarly, mobility in cities involves getting people out of their cars by promoting other forms of transport, not only cycling and walking, but also through investing in feasible mass transport, light rail networks, bus networks, and so on, which are more efficient than cars in terms of taking up less space and using less fuel per passenger mile. Now, Lahore is expanding across large areas, resulting in spread of low density suburban housing and long distances. This has resulted in more and more usage of privately owned cars, which has become common to move around. So the best way to make cities more sustainable is to avoid unnecessary sprawl. It needs to be ensured that new urban developments are moderately high density and use more sustainable forms of mobility. Buildings are also one of the major consumers of energy, for example, by air conditions. So a key priority for cities is to encourage more energy efficient buildings and also by using passive heating and cooling. For example, in cold climate, that might involve orienting buildings to capture more sunlight. The opposite can be done for Lahore, which is generally hot. Now, for urban sustainability, we also need better governance. There's a need to involve people from different segments of society in the decision-making process. This effectively means that different groups of people who might be affected by a decision or a development should be involved in all stages of decision-making. For now, that's all I had to say about sustainability and resilience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. If anyone has a question, please go ahead. Okay, so sir, I have a question actually. I just wonder how to bring people out of cars. Like everybody is talking about walkable communities and bicycle infrastructure, but people aren't ready to get out of the car. It's like the issue of status quo or what? Because I have personally seen around myself, like people want cars. How to do that? It's not about like, even if we want, we can provide bicycle infrastructure, but are people going to come out for riding a bicycle? I don't know. What do you think?
You know, we are complex people, getting newly rich.
Yeah.
Why in the West people use so many cycling? Why is in Netherlands the majority of people use cycles for going to offices and for shops? Here, I live in Cavalry Ground, and to go to the market, which is hardly 1 kilometer, I use car. Isn't that funny? So yeah. I think with the passage of time, as we people get more and more mature and our complexes, they dwindle. I think these things, human behavior is very difficult to change. It is not a question of switching the button on or off, but it takes times, perhaps decades, before we can be more realistic. Think about environment, think about smog, winter is coming and you will see, a couple of weeks, how bad the situation would be. But we don't care about that. So change takes time, and inshallah, it will change.
Also, sir, some people also come with a lot of excuses, like they say that the weather in Lahore, it doesn't support bicycle or walkability. What do you think? Like, what are your thoughts about?
Yeah, okay. But you see, you don't have to depend upon cycles in totality. Yeah. But why is it necessary that for every school, for every, upscale school, there are 200 cars going to a cycle. Why can't that school provide comfortable buses so that parents are confident that their children can go to school safely and come back safely, so that instead of using 200 cars, you can use a few buses. Similarly, there's a problem with our, this mass transit of the trains and the buses. I would love to go by bus because in this chaotic traffic, I hate to drive in city. But if I go, for example, the nearest station to me from where I live is Kalma Chowk. Now, okay, I want to go to city or somewhere on the bus. Where do I park my car? How do I go there? So there is no integration between different modes of transport. You see,
right.
So many people would like to love by driving in this, unless you have a driver, driving in Lahore's traffic, it's a nightmare.
It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Also, sir, the urban sprawl you see in Lahore, there are such long travel distances. I don't feel like going to Lahore anymore and travel there. Like, it's pathetic. I feel so tired and all. It's not
Absolutely.
okay. I don't feel okay.
Yeah. Good. I agree with you.
So let's move towards
So I would just like to contribute my comments to what you have said. I think it's too early to blame the people and their social behaviors, especially when the government is the one which is not providing the public transportation to an extent as Izhar Saab is saying is available in another European cities. Because contrary to what you are saying, the use of public transportation, especially the metro as well as the orange train, demonstrate that there's a need and there's an attitude of the people towards adopting the urban mobility in terms of the public transportation, provided it will, there are buses which will come more frequently. There are buses and different types of transportation which are going to connect and create a network, making all the parts of the city accessible.
Yeah.
Because I personally know that people would love to use the public transportation, provided it is there. It is not there, not even in the Lahore. And if it is there, as Izhar Saab is saying, it is very disintegrated. It is not integrated at all.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
the infrastructure is missing.
I'm sorry, I recently upgraded my software in my mobile, so I couldn't switch on the video, but sorry for that.
No worries.
Okay, because I agree with you. I didn't say that people don't like to go on public transport. What I said was that the system is not integrated. There are no parking spaces where the car owners can go and park. I said I would love to go on buses, but the system is so disjointed that the buses cannot be used. And secondly, the whole urban transport system is at present very inadequate. So there are many things, See, initially when this public transport and this metros was initiated in a few years back, the whole idea was, and people used to come on television and say that this will help to shift traffic from roads to the buses, and it will help to reduce pressure on the roads. But that did not happen because the people who use buses mostly are not car owners. The target should have been the car owners. And for that, it was, again, I'm repeating this thing, that you must provide a parking plaza or some safe place where the people can go from home to that area, park their cars and go on bus wherever they like.
Right, sir. Absolutely. Okay, let's move towards our next speaker. So conflicts, insecurities, weak institutions, limited access to justice. If these things exist in a society, we cannot sustain peace. And that's what our next speaker is going to share with us. He's going to share the role of peacemaking process in sustaining a sustainable city. So I invite Musa Lakhani. He's an advocate and he did his LLM from University of Milan. Are you there, Musa?
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
Walaikum assalam. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hamidan wa musalliyan. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Musa Lakhani, and I am the researcher of law and sustainability. I had the opportunity to read, talk, and share the ideas of sustainable development since 2017, when I was facilitating a batch of cadets administered by Pakistan Navy. So this enthusiasm for the topic took me to the University of Milan, where I recently graduated in sustainable development, specializing in the rule of law. First of all, I'm really thankful to be part of this amazing week that urges to awake people, and I'm even happier to see the enthusiasm of the sentient crowd who joined from across the regions, sharing the same spirit and the cause. So, without any further ado, because I have a limited slot, I will be talking about the peacemaking processes and the conflict resolution mechanisms in shaping a sustainable city. Let me start by saying this, that we have a prior understanding about what matters in the city, in its extrinsic and in its intrinsic sense. The city's design, the infrastructure, and the urban planning definitely helps in erecting a city that avoids people to transgress their limits, which is the essence of sustainable development. But on the other hand, the equation does not satisfy until and unless we also think about the grassroots levels. Well, amongst others, one of the most important is the rule of law, which is again possible only if we have the quick, efficient, and to me, flexible mechanisms to resolve the disputes so that the rule of law prevails. At this point, I would like to bring your kind attention towards two important terms that needs to be defined here. The first one being the peace, and the other one is conflict. Fundamentally, they might seem opposite to each other, but what a lot of researchers, and I tend to believe personally, that it depends on the perspective. It may be the case, but it may not be the case at all times. So I would like to state here for the record that several theories that circulate the world today, aspiring this world to make a better place to live for um, people today and the future generations to come, they define their own realities in their own way because they have their own perspectives. And when they have their own perspectives, their own cultural, social, economical, political backgrounds, they ultimately respond to them with whatever discourse that suits them. So as we were talking right now about social behaviors and cognitive biases, and we cannot change people at this is too early to say about it. Basically it's because of our cultural settings that is happening right now. It means that the societies may differ in approach to the same problem due to their cultural, religious, political, or maybe economic situation.
Can't hear you, sir.
I think he lost his connection. Let's wait for a moment. Then if he doesn't appear, then we can move towards our next speaker.
Sure.
let's not just waste the time and move towards our next speaker. Next, we have Miss Amina Ali with us. Miss Amina, are you there? Actually, she's going to share with us the role of culture in building resilience within cities, and she is National Project Officer Culture UNESCO, and she's going to share with us the role of like the UNESCO, what role of UNESCO is playing in Lahore through their projects. So, are you there, Miss Amina? Amina. We can't hear you, Miss Amina. Yeah, please. We can't hear you. Still, we can't hear you. No.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're back.
Yes, I got disconnected. Just
Okay,
technical
no
issue, I think.
worries.
So
Uh,
I'm not sure when I lost the connection.
no worries.
So where did you lose me actually? What I was saying. Amna? Um, Amna, can you hear me?
We can hear you. I'm not sure about Amna.
Okay. Where did you lose me? Can you please identify the point? I was talking about the conflict and peace. Okay. So I'll just say the same thing which I was saying earlier. So it might be a repetition. I'm really sorry for that. So I was saying that there are two sides of the equation. The first one is the design, the structure, which has the extrinsic value, and similarly we have the other side, which is which has the life or the spirit or the intrinsic value of the design. So the equation does not satisfy until and unless we also think about the things which bring life to this urban wonder which we are designing, which are very few but very important. So at the grassroots levels, amongst others, one of the most important is the rule of law, which is again possible only if we have the very quick, efficient, and to me very flexible mechanisms to resolve the disputes, so that the rule of law prevails. At this point, I would like to bring your attention towards two important terms. The first one is peace, and the other one is conflict. They might seem opposite to each other usually, but what a lot of researchers and I tend to believe that it depends on the perspective again. It may be the case and may not be the case at all times. And when certain theories that aspire to make this world a better place for to live for everyone, um, we believe that there are a lot of contexts, social, economic, political, or maybe religious contexts that help define the situation and that help resolve the situation again. So as the debate between liberalism and realism goes on, um, there are realities in which people define, and uh, the decision may not be in the larger interest of the people but in the interest of the influentials. So what is needed basically is a solution pack that can work on a global scale. So what I'm trying to suggest here, that there is a lot of importance of what academicians and research scholars say and produce. However, the fragmentation, especially in the political and the executive circles regarding peace and sustainability, have caused the debate to go on and linger on, and the implementation basically to slow down. So, having said that, let's talk about peace first, which has always been defined in a different perspective, and it being a relative term, not having a static definition. I'm sure that many of us agree now that peace is not a static term, rather, it is a dynamic one. And as the founder of Peace and Conflict Studies in the West, Johan Galtung, he defines peace. So again, he defines peace with a perspective in the perspective of the violence. So he believes that peace is the absence of violence, where he defines violence in in direct, structural, and in cultural circumstances. So the definition of violence and definition of peace, and peace in relation to the violence. And he says that when the violence is completely, perfectly, and absolutely eliminated in all its three forms, which are direct, structural, and cultural, peace prevails. But on the other hand, he has another definition of peace with the same perspective of violence, which he says that peace is a non-violent conflict transformation. So these two definitions define to us and tell us that peace is not just the end product, but peace is also the process. So when we are going to define peace for our societies and sustainable cities, we are not talking about the end product only, but we are also talking about peace during the process, which goes through, because it is not a static one. It does not happen with a blink of an eye, but it takes hours and days and maybe years. So from the first day, from the first hour, and the first moment, we need to be non-violent, which is achieving our sustainable goals. And the end product should also be peaceful. So again, what Galtung was suggesting was peace to be a state, a position, which still a position, but also it's a process whereby things are perceived or actions are performed in a specific way that helps achieve the state of peace. So peace is not just the end product, rather it's also a process. And he named his book the same way, which is Peace by Peaceful Means. So let me put a note again here, that it's not the first time that someone had realized or made a discovery that peace does not only mean to be product of the process, but also the process can be peaceful too. This is actively, or rather I would say proactively, displayed in the Sunnah of the last prophet in Islam in the 7th century Arabia. And his conflict resolutions were the depictions of Galtun's wild imaginations, which he has tried to achieve several times at different stages recently. Therefore, when I say peacemaking mechanisms, I mean to say that if we pick up the right forums and ways to resolve the dispute and conflicts which cause inconvenience, let's say disrupt the peace in society, we are actually establishing peace from the very beginning of the process. In other words, the dynamic activity of the peacemaking has already begun. Coming to the same idea, so we were talking about peace until now. So from the same idea, if the peace can be in the process and in the end result, the question arises, if conflict resolutions, if they're peaceful, can they be sustainable too? And if yes, can the processes be sustainable? So this is the question. So the answer lies in the peace and sustainability nexus. So far, what people were talking about, but they were talking about peace separately and sustainability, sustainable development separately. The nexus, which was given in 2015, was not very much discussed in the academic and the scholarly circles together. They were dealt with separately, but they were never thought of in a connected way. So sustainability and peace have long been recognized with academic and policy circles as intrinsically interrelated. Although there are some studies that examine impacts of sustainability on peace and vice versa, however, a specific focus on sustainability and peace nexus remains marginal, not just in the academic, but also in the policy discourses. And pathways where sustainability and peace interact remain ambiguous. So sadly, as a result, the global initiatives on peace and sustainability remains patchy. And what it applies to the same in Pakistan and similarly in the case of Lahore. Therefore, what is necessary to adopt is the theory of sustainable conflict resolution. Amna, if you could move the presentation to the fourth slide, which is about sustainable conflict resolution. Yes, this theory is really recent and it is presented recently. It emphasizes that the conflict resolution should be there. The four things that needs to be adopted for the process and the result to be sustainable. The first one is that it should be non-violent and creative. Non-violent because we were talking about a peaceful process, and creative because we need to make this process not just peaceful but also sustainable. We want to make it a sustainable process, a flexible process, because when we sit down in as an advocate and as a negotiator, mediator, arbitrator, when we sit down in courts, we sit down to resolve the disputes or diffuse a situation. What actually happens that the first party who is in charge or perhaps on the right and wants to take revenge from the second party, they might have an ego between them, but what can be done creatively, try to resolve a dispute in a way that the first party does not only get the benefit, but also the second party, and the positive externalities of that resolution should also have an impact on larger in the larger interest of the people. So this is a creative solution, and these solutions are happening in the West, and this they were happening even in the 7th century Arabia, because I've read recently a very interesting um, um, a thesis, a dissertation about how the last prophet in Islam was doing it, and doing it perfectly, absolutely, and very interestingly, these all things were covered over there. So the first thing is that it should be non-violent and creative. Also, the second important thing is that the parties need to submit their will to attain and transpire peace, because there is going to be a compromise and sacrifice situation, and for that the parties need to submit their will to someone is supreme, perhaps a judge or an arbitrator or someone who is facilitating or assisting them to resolve or diffuse a situation. And also, this helps, as I suggested, win-win situation for both the parties and also the parties at large. And the lastly, which is really sustainable idea, that without compromising the ability of the future generations to conclude, this gives them the right to change the situation and innovate it in a way that demands at that moment when the situation is there. So when we're talking about this sustainable conflict resolution, we're keeping an idea in mind that the current situation of the city of Lahore, the current judicial situation, I'm saying, as far as the provincial breakdown is concerned, the Lahore High Court has a strength of 50 judges working right now, with the pending cases of about 193,000, close to 200,000 cases for 50 judges. And in the Punjab's district and session courts, the number is 1.3 million. The judges are like who are working right now are about 1600 to 1700. So uh, the level of pending cases and the level of cases that are coming through every day uh, gives us the rule of law situation, that how come with this limited resources the justice could be imparted. And with this situation, as we have discussed earlier, the peace cannot be established in and when peace cannot be established in the process, it cannot be held in the outcome as well. So what we need to understand is that for erecting or constructing or developing an urban society, we need to think not just about the extrinsic or the things which are tangible, but there are certain intangible matters that need to be taken into account, which out of which for the one of the most important is the rule of law. So conclusively, in a vibrant and progressive city like Lahore, where creativity in every sense is projected and appreciated, I think that it would be thriving to make use of the sustainable conflict resolution mechanisms to alternately resolve the disputes and put the city on the fastest possible track of development. Wama alaina illa al-bala, Pakistan Zindabad. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very interesting, Musa. Thank you so much. Any question, participants, speakers? If you got any question, please go ahead. Okay, no. Miss Amna, are you there with us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Perfect. Yes, yes, absolutely. Welcome. Yeah, please.
Thank you very much, Amna, for inviting me, and a very interesting conversation going on. Taking it up from Musa Lakhani Saab about the sustainability of the city and how peace and conflict resolution go hand in hand when we talk about resilience of a city. Well, I'm representing UNESCO here as a cultural organization which is working right now with the government of Punjab on a sustainable tourism-related project. And I'll just take a minute to go to the pandemic that we have faced for the last 2 years, and it's still continuing, and various forms are coming up, and which is affecting the daily lives of each and every one of us. But culture is one of those aspects which has been affected by this pandemic throughout the world in a very, very drastic way. Considering the importance or the weightage that we give to culture in our society, the culture was one of the most affected segments when it came to the pandemic, because everything was closed down, and the culture and creative industries and people working as artisans and as performing artists were deeply affected by this challenging situation. Because here in Pakistan, in Lahore, the cultural activities and the performing arts, this is the time, the spring season and the early winter season is the time when the city is thriving with activities in every nook and corner. You have your festivals going on, you have your music performances going on. But for the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, there was no interaction between people, and the physical activities were closed down. This affected the creative industries of the area, so much so that people related to this area were forced to leave the work that they have been doing for generations. And uh, taking this up, UNESCO all over the world, we launched a Resili Art campaign, a global campaign, just to have a dialogue with the people associated to culture from all over the world, to see how it can be how it can be tackled, how the potential of culture, of art, can be sustainable if this pandemic goes on, because that's an ongoing process now. We know that we have to live with it. So and considering our social context, it's very easy to say that peace has to prevail, and everything has to be inclusive. But considering the dynamics of the social structure and the people that we are living with, a very, very minute comment or a word can instigate debates and movements which cause disrupt to the ongoing daily activities, especially we've just come across it in the last few days as well. So peace, coexistence, inclusiveness is the core of the work that we are doing. And when we talk about people at the grassroots level, it is quite easy to make people understand how we can achieve what we want to achieve if we're all working in it together. But again, everything goes around the money. So the economy is very, very important. When we talk about resilience, we cannot forget the fact that everything which we are talking about, be it climate change, be it creative industries, be it the peace and inclusiveness of everything, it has to be integrated when it comes to the economy, where people come together when they know that they have a financial benefit in it. So I think that is one of the reasons that that we need to promote it in a way that the creative economy and the betterment of the local people, of the people associated with culture industries, is manifested through the work that we are doing. Coming back to the point of Lahore being a resilient city, Well, Lahore has faced its ups and downs throughout centuries. And right now, I would go to the point that Mr. I think Izhar was making when he had his presentation. November is the month when Lahore tops the world, and in a very sad state of affairs, we top the world because of the most polluted air that we have. We breathe that air, and we go through that every year. But what do we do about it? What happens then? There are some talk shows which talk about smog and the effects of the pollutant air that we breathe in, and the air quality index, and how we top the chart every year. Last year, it was quite it was actually quite funny when one of the government departments took the initiative of going to their offices on bicycles. What kind of a stunt is that? What kind of a practice is that? Is it sustainable? No, it's not. It's just a publicity stunt that you say that everybody working in your office is going to come to the office on a bicycle. Lahore is a big city. It is expanding day by day. The weather of Lahore is not conducive to this activity of going from one place to another on a bicycle. Yes, we do need a better infrastructure. We do need good public transport. But the concept of bicycle, I'm sorry to say, that is quite far-fetched and not practical at all. So I think when we talk about resilience, we have to come up with innovative solutions. We have to come up with creative ideas. The people of Lahore are very big-hearted. They are very inclusive. They want everybody to feel the diversity of the culture that they have. It's up to the policymakers. It's up to the people who are working on a higher level, how it is promoted and how it is integrated in everything that we are doing. Coming back to my point on the creative industries, now is not the time that everyone can come and visit us and see what we are doing or what potential we have. Now is the time of digital media. For the last 1.5 years, every person who was not willing to use digital media for any work other than their own specific office work or academic has been using social media for everything, because that is how the world got connected. I think this is the time that we need to make our people realize, our communities realize that there is some sort of a creative economy linked with the digital platforms as well. We are the sort of people who would want a free ticket to a concert any time that we get a chance. So thinking that people would pay something online to watch a performance or to be a part of some cultural activity, it's a far-fetched idea, but I think that things are changing now. Quite a few people, entrepreneurs, creative industries people have started their online ventures during this pandemic. Many people lost their jobs and they had to come up with the creative ideas how to earn their livelihoods. So they have been now working on digital platforms. So I think one of the very important aspects of resilience is that we have to include every aspect of our society in the digital linkage, and then link it to the creative economy, because otherwise it's going to be very, very challenging for the culture and creative industries to thrive. Lahore has been designated as the City of Literature by UNESCO Creative Cities Network. This was done in 2019. And the reason that Lahore got this designation was that Lahore has been contributing to the field of literature for years, for decades, but there was no documentation done. We lack in documenting what we do. We are there to conduct activities. We are there to hold festivals. We are there to hold debates. But there is a lack of data collection. There is a lack of information which can be shared with the world. We actually don't know how to project what potential we have to the world. Coming back to what UNESCO is doing, Lahore Museum is one of the largest and the biggest museums of Pakistan. And Lahore Museum is one of those museums which has the potential of being one of the best museums in the world with the sort of artifacts and the collection that it has. The sad part is that we are unable to project it that way. So we are from UNESCO's end working towards sustainable management policies and recommendations for the government, for the institutes who are working with the culture and with the creative industries, so that any effort that we make is sustainable, is not just a pilot project. So this is the work that is going on right now. And other than that, we are working on the promotion of religious tourism as well. I feel that the word religious tourism may not actually project to the extent that this work is important and that this work is being done at the grassroots level, because it's not just religion, it's interfaith harmony that is being created. We have actually, I for once witnessed the fact that we had this community engagement in one of the outskirts of in one of the gurdwaras in outskirts of Lahore, and we met some Sikh community members, and we had a very inclusive discussion with the Muslims of the community as well. And as a result of that, last year when there was this procession of Bara Rabiul Awwal, it was heartening to see that one of the cake for this procession was cut in a gurdwara, and the community was working together for that. The Sikhs were there and the Muslims were there, the Imam Masjid was there, the Sikh Gurdwara Granthi was there, and they were sitting together and celebrating this festivity. So I think the image that people of Pakistan have a very intolerable attitude is not true. And when we go and when we talk to people and when we make them realize how interfaith harmony can bring them together and bring the prosperity of that area, they feel committed to work together. So I think one of the takeaway points from the work that UNESCO is doing is integrating heritage education, is integrating the peaceful process of promoting interfaith harmony and inclusiveness in the local communities, and then developing sustainable management policies for the government to take up. And we hope that the tourism sector, the culture sector, the creative industries and the art will thrive and will make this city more resilient. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Very interesting thoughts indeed. Any question? Anybody?
Yes, I have a question. I respect Amna's ideas about impracticability of cycling in Lahore because of hot climate. Yes, you are right, but Lahore is not hot throughout the year. And when we say cycling, it does not mean that we are going from one end of the city to the other end by cycles. Essentially, we can start with cycling within a neighborhood, where one can cycle conveniently and comfortably. To give another extreme example, again to Netherlands, majority of people, when they have to go to their office or to another town for daily commuting, they have safe parking lots at the railway stations. They park their cars, use the train, come back, cut the cycles, and come back home. So it's segregated. In many ways, you are right, but I think we should make a start at least at local level.
I completely agree, Azhar Saab. I think my point was when I spoke about that incident was that it was very superficial of that government department to take that initiative that a person who's living in Model Town will come to Mall Road on a cycle for 3 days just because the department has taken that initiative. But yes, you're right. We have to start from somewhere. I remember during the pandemic last year, I live near the airport in Defense Phase 6. And when there was a complete lockdown on all sort of commute, we could see people coming out of their houses and cycling and walking on the road every night. there was a practice of people coming out of their houses because there was nothing else that they could do. The culture here is not as such that we would prefer walking across the street to go get a pack of bread. We'll definitely take out a car and go, and that
Right.
culture needs to change. And I think
Yeah.
that should start from the very beginning, from children, from youth, and then from them to other people. But yes, it has to start. Another thing which I forgot to mention when I was speaking was, we talk about climate change and it becomes it becomes a movement, especially when the government says that we have to do the clean green initiative and the plantation ceremonies start off. There is no responsibility, and there is no follow up on one plant that you have planted. People go to these areas, they just plant a tree or a seed, and that's about it. There is nobody to take care of it. There is nobody to take
Forget
ownership of
about
that.
it. Yes.
So that also seems like just a photo op, and more of a number that we have to take, that we have planted so many trees in one day, and that's about it. Who's going to take care of that? One has to own the work that they're doing. So I think that is also one of the things that we need to work on, that whatever initiative we take, we have to take complete ownership of that initiative as well.
True. Thank you.
I would like to add something in it, and it is one of my experience that I had. I met recently one of my friend who was, who used to do cycling on main canal road, and one of the problem that I asked him to share with me, he was saying that there wasn't enough infrastructure for him, and he felt kind of vulnerable while cycling in the traffic. So I believe that these are the things that really discourage the cyclists who are willing to cycle in the city. And another thing is that it is our culture. Like when I was young, even kid, I wanted to cycle in the streets, but it is a kind of concept that cycling was deemed to be the symbol of poverty, and the car is deemed to be the symbol of being rich. So this is something that the society injects the the kind of concept into the children, and then we change with the passage of time. So there are multiple problems that we can, I think, focus on, and social change always takes time. So I believe that we should be going together, and that's it.
Well, I think the change has begun. We are talking about it and we are exploring ideas how to implement it. So that's the first step to it. So I think the change is already there.
I also want to add something in it. Right now, like I'm in Netherlands, so I just want to add my experience. So as Sir talk about, like cycling thing, ma'am said like it's unpractical, but see, it's all about climate change. In like you said, in Lahore, it's hot weather. In Netherlands, we already almost every day we face rainy season, but still people they are cycling. I think it's all about land use. Even the way they organize everything, for instance, in a small town, we have everything. Like we have grocery store. You don't need to go to the other town. So it's a perfect example of sustainable town. I think this is the main thing that encourage cycling, that you have everything at your doorstep. And the second thing is vulnerability, that one of I think this participant mentioned vulnerability. Like in Netherlands, they provide safe infrastructure for cyclists. Even on small street, you can see like a proper infrastructure for cycle. Even there is just one way for bike, for cars, but they provide separate lanes for cycles, two separate lanes for cycles. So it's actually they provide safe infrastructure and environment for cycling. So yeah.
Thanks, Ikra. Actually, you're right. It's environment is never a barrier. It's all about social change. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sure.
Yeah, coming towards the next speaker, Mehreen Mustafa. She is an architect, researcher, and has a consultancy in Lahore. And she's going to share her three of her projects, very interesting projects that deals with like SDG 11 and I think SDG 4. So Mehreen, are you there with us? Oh yeah, she's here. Mehreen, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and you can see my screen as well, the presentation. Can you see the presentation as well?
Yes.
Yes, yes, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so thank you so much, Amna, first of all, for inviting me here. So I'm going to present two of the research projects that we have initiated and we have been working on. Moving on, I would like to just, yes. Okay, so these projects are actually initiated by Architalk Academic and Research Center, which is a research wing of the research, design and construction consultancy. And here, as you can see, there are a list of number of ongoing and proposed projects, but I'm going to talk about 3 projects. Also, I think it is very important to tell here that all 3 of the projects that I'm going to present here basically focuses on Sustainable Development Goal number 11, which talks about sustainable cities and communities, and goal number 4, which talks about quality education. So coming to the first 2 projects, the first 2 projects have been implemented under the initiative of Art Play. It's an empirical and experimental initiative around the public spaces in Lahore. And the basic objective of the research projects are to employ art and play, which is local game, to empower the local community to regenerate, transform, sustain inactive or underutilized neighborhood public spaces into an interactive, safe, and playful environment. So coming to that, the first project under Art Play initiative is investigation and regeneration of a public space. So this is a project that we have implemented in a low income neighborhood or vicinity of Shesha Colony, and this project took a year to complete, and it has resulted in the public art exhibition, which was held in the 2 public parks of the Shesha Colony in itself. So the project basically thrives on the idea that today our public spaces, due to the lack of inadequate use and service legitimization, has already shackled the liberty of our society. However, we believe that the regeneration and provision of equal rights in terms of access and participation to the public spaces can also strengthen and communal ties. Therefore, the aim of this research project is to explore art and local games as a creative tool for the regeneration of 2 underutilized community parks, which are located in the Shesha community. So here's this very small video, which basically talks about what the project was about, what were the main challenges and the impacts.
The art initiative was implemented in 2018 in low-income housing neighborhood of Lahore. This initiative empowered local community to transform and regenerate through inactive, underutilized neighborhood public spaces into child-friendly, playful, interactive, and creative environment through art, play, home. In this initiative, the challenges we have faced is how to create a space friendly, playful, and safe for children in a city which is full of fear. Also, the other challenge was identification of the neighborhood public space and also the transformation and how to display our progress. Another big challenge was how to convince the caretakers and community members to share their fear, mistrust, and insecurity, and also send their child to play and participate themselves.
मेरी मुझे तो बहुत अच्छा लगा मेरी मामा तो देख रही थी बहुत दिन नहीं है बहुत ही अच्छा लगा आज मैं अपने बहनों के साथ आया हूँ टाइम काटना कल भी पेंटिंग याद भी नहीं कर रहा अभी बच्चों की बनाई भी है बच्चों को पता चले कैसे हम
Impact of the project was significant change in the visual and social outlook of the space, which also paved way for its long-term impact of creating a child-friendly, stimulating,
playful and convivial space for the children. Also, the community-based participatory approach played a key role in achieving the long-term impact or objective of the project by fostering the community collaboration, thus ensuring its sustainability through community participation. Also, the project helped to further build and foster the leadership and team building skills of the caretaker, the community, and the children alike, and empower the community caretaker children to take the lead role and transform their immediate environment for good. The project also resulted in the regeneration of an inactive and underutilized neighborhood space by using very minimum resources and existing infrastructure. So basically, the amalgamation of art and play provided the needed opportunity for the caretakers, the local community, and children to come together, to learn together, to collaborate, and grow together mentally as well as physically. Okay, so as the video has already talked about the impact and challenges, I would like to stress upon the two approaches that we have employed in this project. And these two approaches were running parallel to each other. The first one was urban exploration. And this approach was employed in order to explore and understand the dynamics of the public culture of the Shesha community, and as well as to understand the spatial complexity of the two inactive public parks as well. This approach also helped us identify the potential public spaces which were available for the social experimentation and intervention, and also helps us a lot in the development of community collaboration. Running parallel to the urban exploration was the community-based participatory approach, which was a very integral approach we have applied and or employed in the project, which has helped us develop inclusive design proposals assisted by research data and community participation, and also to design, it has also helped us to design the process of public art exhibition itself, and has encouraged the community to participate, interact, and engage with the project as an active and leading stakeholders as well. Although it was not very clear from the start, and neither we have planned this, but the kids of the Shesha community itself have played a very integral role in the success of the project in itself. First of all, they proved to be the icebreaker between our team as well as the community which we were going to interact with. They were the one who played an integral role in creating an environment of comfort and trust with the community, and help us develop a very good collaborative spirit with the community as well. Also, they were the one who were the most enthusiastic ones, and they were also the one who have advocated for the success of the project at the exhibition itself, so much so that they were literally going door to door to their relatives and the family members of their friends, and asking them and inviting them to come and participate in the exhibition, and explaining a lot about the objective of our project as well. In the end of the project, what we have proposed in order to understand and evaluate the success of the project, these two activity maps. Since we were working on the two public parks, these two maps demonstrates the type of activities, the intensity of the activities, and the place where the activities were happening before the public art exhibition. And these maps we have created during our public art demonstration. And what we have observed is that the public art play initiative has first of all helped us increase the number of activities which were being unfolded in the park. For example, first of all, this park was only used to play the cricket, but with our art play initiative, the park was also used not only to play cricket, but to play other games, for painting, for discussion, for casual chatters, as well as for debates. On the other hand, the art play initiative has also helped us make these public parks more gender inclusive. That is, parks which are very dominated by men, and into the parks which were also the spaces where the women and children can sit, relax, and enjoy themselves as well. And last but not the least, we have also mapped that how the people from all the different walks of life, as well as from different age groups, have started to access and use the parks while we were conducting the project, and especially when this art play initiative 2 days exhibition was being unfolded into these two spaces. Coming to our next project, which we have implemented under art play initiative, and which has happened in 2020, and will be happening again in 2021 is a project we call Parking, Reimagining Our Urban Landscapes. So this project basically thrives on the idea that Lahore is one of the metropolitan cities of Pakistan, has seen a very unprecedented growth in its population as well as uncontrollable urban sprawl. In the meantime, the public spaces are shrinking at a great pace and existing ones are being engulfed by the private sector to earn profit. All of this have deprived the Lahoris and those who live in Lahore of spaces where they can interact, express themselves, or simply relax. So parking is an initiative which aims to directly address this deprivation issue by creating a temporary public space pockets in different parts of the city, that is converting public space parking spaces into parks for a day using the Art Play initiative as well. Again, we have employed few art and local game methodology for the implementation of this project. So here you can see all the pictures of a quick impression, which was basically an art therapy, which has helped develop a very strong community as well as interactive dialogue between the two strangers, where the two strangers were asked to sit across each other and draw each other's first impression, thus initiating a dialogue as well. And then we employed two life-size games. One is Shtapu and another one was Zero Kata. Both of these two games are the one which we have grown up playing. So these were the two local games, one of the two local games that we have employed in the project as well. Again, there was this game of Sam Sivi, which we have again developed into a life scale model. And this game actually receives a lot of attention because of the vibrant colors that we have used, and also because it was a life scale one, not a very small board game. Ludo was another board game which we have used in this parking initiative. And as you can see in the pictures as well, people from all the genders and all walks of lives have come together. Most of them know each other, but there are also a lot of people who don't know each other. So these games have kind of proved to be a medium, a bond, which has, kind of compelled the different community members to come together and enjoy some good time in a space which was used to be dedicated for the parking alone. And here you can see a very linear shot of the project. It doesn't have the Shtapu and the Zero Kata in it, but you can see that these are the parking lots where we have, put all these art and play combination games. And then there was also this art exhibition, thanks to artists who have, donated his painting for the cause. And in the end, you'll also see that these are the kind of the painting with the community members, they took it from their house and kept it here because they want their artwork to be seen as well. So this is how this place, a parking space, was regenerated into a place for the parks for a day. The last project which I'm going to share here is a slum school prototype design. So slum school prototype design again is an experimental and collaborative social design project which was initiated by Architalk Academic and Research Center. And the basic objective of this experimental project is first to conduct the research and then to develop adaptable, portable, and contextually sensitive school units for the underprivileged students of the informal settlements in Lahore and then later on in the other cities of Pakistan as well. We find this project to be very viable and feasible because first, we believe that education is a basic human right. Secondly, during the course of our research, we have came to find out that the slum dwellers are being discriminated as being the children who are coming from the slums to the nearby school where the students or the children of the lower middle class or the middle class families are, getting education. And then we also know that these kids who are, living in the slums are the one who are also the earning members of their family. And they're also the one who keeps on moving from one place to another, as the slums will be organized or then dismantled from one place. Thus, we believe that the conventional school building, which is very permanent in its nature, as well as the education model, is not very suitable for them to access as well as acquire the education. It is also very important to understand that while we are talking about the slum school, we should understand that what is a slum. So UN Habitat defines slums as an area which has one of the 5 characteristics such as poor structure, quality of housing, overcrowding, inadequate access to safe water, sanitation, and other infrastructure facilities, as well as insecure residential status. And we also know through our research that we have conducted around the informal settlements or the Kachi Abadis, as we call it, that Lahore has, seen to already have two kind of existing kachi abadis. The one is a very formal kachi abadi, and the second one is what we call an informal kachi abadi, and the one that we are going to talk about, and the one which is not recognized by the state. It's very temporary in its habitation and existence. It has a very low land use density. It has minimal or no infrastructure facilities available, and it is usually occupied by gypsies or lower income sections of the communities which are coming from villages, and also recently by the Afghan refugees. And the project also spun from the idea that we as a students as well as the people have felt throughout our lives that Lahore, just like any other metropolitan cities, you designed to accommodate the interest of the people having capital. So much so that even the development projects often ignores the marginalized community, both in terms of infrastructure as well as human development. And despite of the fact that these informal settlements have proven to be a very useful tool in filling the affordable housing demand and supply gap, these are the kind of settlements which does not receive any kind of facilitation from their community around them or the municipality or the governments. So these were our 3 steps approach, which we have opted while we were trying to develop a prototype school. The first one was that rather than telling the community what to do, we went to the community to learn from them that how do they continue to survive with very minimal existing infrastructure and resources. Then we develop collaboration with the community leaders, community member, as well as different organization, as well as the people who were working towards the SOEM goal. And then we build upon existing facilities and resources rather than burdening the community as well as the land that they are occupying with the more facilities as well as resources. So this is the site where our first slum school prototype has been installed in this May, and it continues to operate. So as you can see that this site is the one which is located on a very huge chunk of a public land. It is surrounded by a residential area, but then again, it also has 2 very mega projects, Expo Center and Emporium Mall, which is located near to their facilities. And amidst this, we have this empty land, which is then proposed for another big mega projects. And then the municipal community of Lahore are then using these slum communities to occupy and maintain their hold of this land. So there are a few site pictures where we have identified all the characteristics that UN Habitat defines as those of slums to start our working with. And these are the 3 core design principles which we are basically going to employ in all the prototype schools that we are going to develop. So the first one is that the schools we will create will be going to sensitive to the context in terms of their material being local and low cost, and their construction techniques, also the local construction techniques, and that the school will rely on minimum or existing infrastructure and energy sources. We also believe that the schools have to be adaptable in terms of their purpose as well as response to the community. That is that it should not just act like a school, but it should have the capacity to morph itself, to develop itself from a space where there's a formal school activity going on into a place which is also a space for learning, space of extracurricular activities, and the community meeting. And the last one, the school has to be portable. Why the school has to be portable is because we know that these communities are the one which are very temporary in terms of their habitation. So they keep on moving from one place to another. So in case this whole community will move from this place to another place, we want the school to go with them as well. Then talking about another design principle, being sensitive to the context. When we say sensitive to the context, we also mean that the school, the scale and size of the school has to respect its neighborhood as well. And we have usually employed the local material which they usually use as a structural material in their jugis, which is bars, and their local vernacular joinery as well. And then you can also see that we have used tarpal, which is another local waterproof as well as heat resistant material which we have used to form the roof of our slum school. We have also employed the passive architectural design techniques in which if you can see in the section of the school, we have kept these slits where the warm air can rise up and escape, as well as you will see in the coming slides as well that the facade of this school is totally adaptable. So the people who are, acquiring education inside or the community which will be sitting inside the school can simply control the facade of this school to achieve desirable climate as well as light for the kind of activities that they are going to perform. Also, what we have find out, another interesting aspect while we were building school, is that we have a very neat carpeted road. So what we did, that we did not have the floor of the school. It has helped us reduce the cost as well as the kind of weight that the floor is going to impose on the overall structure as well. So we have these detachable pallets which we have kept it here, and it has also helped us escape the rainy season, because the water comes and it simply passes through the pallets, leaving the whatever activities was going on into the school really unattended. The last one is that the school is adaptable in terms of its facade, as I have already explained, but also adaptable in terms of its layout, furniture, and function of the space, as you can see in the three scenarios. So these detachable pellets can be arranged in scenario one, just like scenario one, on the top of each other to have this very formal kind of learning activity, to the one where they are, arranged in a different level to have a very informal kind of learning activity, to the one in the scenario three where they can have a performative space as well. And then the school is also adaptable in terms of its elements in the interiors. As you can see, the windows are usually used for the students to be used as table as well. Together with that, because it's also a research project, so we have published 2 manuals which are available on the project's website as well. And as well as we regularly invite local and international community leaders, community members, and all those professionals who are involved in the process and the projects of community development to share their ideas and their challenges with us as well. Although the project is a huge success in terms of its use and its popularity in the community, but with it comes a challenge as well. That is that the next prototype which we are going to develop, we want to minimize the use of stainless steel as a structural element as well, something which we have failed to achieve in this one by keeping all the design principles intact as well. So that's all from my side. Thank you for listening.
Excellent, Mehreen. Lovely projects. Keep up the good work. And anybody, any question? Please, I suggest you to ask now. Okay, all good. Okay, so there was a shopping incident that took place in Lahore on Independence Day, and I'm not interested in discussing actually what happened next, but it actually raised an important issue of women's safety and why do our cities and public spaces favor only specific groups and genders. Like being an urban planner, I believe that the issue of women's safety has expanded from concerns about sexual harassment to being empowered and move about freely and access the city as a right. Actually, Musa is an expert in this topic, but the point I'm trying to make here is that I just want to give women back their parks so they can feel safe. I want to give them back their streets so they can walk around without fear. And that's why I have invited Ikra Rafiq. He's an expert in gender inclusion, and she's going to talk about women's safety. And yeah, Ikra, please.
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen.
You can send me your presentation if you want. I can do it for you.
Yeah, sure.
Have you sent it, Ra?
Yeah, I'm sending. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm not sharing my screen. Um,
Now you can. I'm sorry, I just forgot to make you co-host. Now you can share your screen. Just try it now.
okay. Yeah. Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for waiting. Yeah. So my name is Ikra, and I'm here to explain the gender inclusive aspect of urban mobility practices in Lahore. Before start, I would like to give my brief introduction. Like I'm an urban planner by profession, and I recently completed my graduation from Van Hallenstein University of Applied Science, Netherlands. Yeah. Before starting my research findings, I would like to give a brief background about Pakistan population. So the first is like according to 2017 census, the population of Pakistan is 207 million, we all know. And the male and female population is almost the same. But we cannot see the same proportion on the public transportation. It's not moving. Sorry, it's not moving. Yeah, so we cannot see the same proportion on the public transportation. So according to Asian Bank Development 2014, like introducing or improving all infrastructure do not ensure the women representation on the public transportation. Since we all know that transportation is highly contextual, so it's very important to understand the local phenomena, local situation of Pakistan. We all know, like in Pakistan, family members' decision making, it's highly influenced on the women to go outside. For instance, the socially constructed role, such as wives, daughters, and sisters, we are all depend on our guardians or our parents or sometimes brother or our husband to go outside. So it's very important to understand their perspective also, what kind of transportation they want their women to travel. So in this case, I used for my research to understand family member perception about women traveling on the public transportation. So I started my this journey in Lahore. So the first thing is like to understand their perception, family members' perception. It's include mother, father, brother, and even female also, the woman who is actually using public transportation. So my research objective was to identify the activities that encourage family members, particularly women, to use public transportation in the Lahore city. I'm not going to discuss this activity in this presentation. I will discuss just the reasons that encourage or discourage women to use public transportation by their family members' perception. Yeah. So for this study, why this study is unique? Because I used the method storytelling. Right now, this method like it's actually very now popular internationally, because in contextual study, it's very important to understand the in-depth to get in-depth understanding of the needs. So women needs is actually very important. We know that the major user of public transportation is women. So therefore, it's important to know the needs of the women on the public transportation based on the views and experiences of the family members and women itself. So first, based on my research, I found that, okay, before presenting my findings, I would like to discuss my sampling strategy. Actually, I use like 7 to 10 family members, uh, 7 to 10 families actually. So in that family, I used male-headed household, female-headed household, families who have who have more daughters than a son. So I use like very diversified sampling to get these results. So I found that female-headed household, they use more public transportation than male-headed household, and female who do not use public, and female, like the families who have more males, they prefer their women to not use public transportation. So the other thing I found that despite the low income, their low income, they still manage to buy a bike, and they would like to go outside to escort their women instead of using the public transportation. I also want to mention here, like, it's also based on the previous studies and based on my research finding that major user of public transportation belongs to lower or middle income group. The major activities that I found that women use public transportation, that is to going to school, markets, cleaning, and visiting some shrines. So the views of family members on the feasibility of public transportation, they think like, I used all mode of public transportation actually. So on metro bus, they think that, okay, proper time schedule of metro bus, actually they encourage their women to use the public transportation. But on the other hand, like chingchi, motorcycle rickshaw, or minivans, their unreliability, because these vehicles, most of these vehicles, they are not registered with any companies. So in case any mishap happens, so family members, they show their concern that they do not know like to whom they are reported about these vehicles. So it's also stopped many women to use public transportation. Also, there is no or little information about routes among women. They have limited information. Secondly, some activities like at certain location, for instance, like one of the respondents just mentioned, it's mentioned that there is certain activities happening at the bus stop. Maybe there is some illegal activities like drug selling, or some sex workers also standing at the bus stop, which also stop many women to use public transportation at the specific time period of time. For instance, many women in Pakistan, in Lahore, they do not use public transportation at night because of these activities, because of their insecurity or at the bus stop. And the main thing is the social stigma of using public transportation. Since it's linked to the low income, so it also stopped many middle income women to use public transportation. So they used some private auto rickshaws to go to their specified destination. The next is accessibility. Most metro bus, they are not accessible to the lower or middle income population. So sometimes they use motorcycle rickshaw, like chingchi rickshaw, to get there. There is also a feeder bus services, but still it's not accessible for the women. So so in the last, like, they ended up being escorted by their male family members, which sometimes male family members like they are busy, or maybe sometimes they are at work. So in this case, it's also discourage women to use public transportation. And also there are some minivans. It's also connected the remote areas to the main network of the city, like metro bus or orange bus. So minivans, it's also has many problems women mention that I will mention later in my presentation. Yeah, so it's all minivans, auto rickshaws. It's women, they complain about the safety issues on these kind of vehicles. Like sometimes on minibuses, women, they complain about the overspeeding of the driver. Or sometimes when they want to pay cash to the drivers, they try to grab hand, which actually make situation comfortable for the woman. And also, since the metro buses is not linked to the it's not linked to the lower or middle income areas, so sometimes women have to walk to get to that area. So in this case, they do not feel safe both in crowded or deserted streets. They always have a fear of sexual harassment in their mind, which actually which discourage women to use the public transportation. The positive factors I found during my research is on metro bus, like women, they show some satisfaction about using metro bus because of since it's designed on international standards, it has cameras and everything. But they also mention that there is a very limited space for women on the in metro bus, and since there is no separation between the men and women, though all in like currently they just separated like at their own, like there is no separate space, separate place. Women actually want inclusive seating arrangement on the public transportation. So, also some international studies also suggested that in case when women want inclusive spaces, try to give them inclusive places. Like on public transportation, in case of Pakistan, they want separate place from men. So it's better it's better to keep separation between the men and women. The next thing is the cost of public transportation. In terms of monetary cost, I found that most of the respondents, they are satisfied with the cost of public transportation. But in terms of physical cost, like for instance, in metro buses, most of metro bus stations, like women have to go, use stairs to get bus. So it does not allow, sometimes it creates uncomfortable situation for older, pregnant, or the disabled women to use the public transportations. This has shifted to many women to the private transport, or sometimes on the like motorcycle rickshaws. Also, I found that many women want to travel on that vehicles which provide them minimum travel time. So the summary of my research is like these are the things that actually discourage women to use the public transportation. First one is there is no proper bus schedule. Like metro has some, but the other buses, there is no proper bus schedule. They have to wait for a long time at the bus stop, and which also create uncomfortable situation for the women because of fear of sexual harassment, because sometimes catcalling and sometimes staring by the strangers. Yeah. And also lack of information of routes among women, unsafe streets and vehicles leading to the destination make them more vulnerable to the sexual harassment. And also the driver behavior is very important, which actually restricted many women to use public transportation. And also poorly designed public transportation neglected women's need. I don't think so, like in Lahore, there are limited bus stops where there is a proper seating arrangement, and no inclusive seating arrangement for women on the public transportation. And the physical cost, like the poorly designed bus stop, poorly designed buses, poorly designed stations actually restricted women to use the public transportation. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Ikra. So what do you recommend to ensure women's inclusion in this public transportation system? Do you have any recommendations? Just
Yeah, actually, I have a lot of recommendation. I didn't add any. So the first recommendation is like women, the main finding of my research is inclusive spaces. Even on buses, even on metro, women need a separate place. Like they feel safe actually in case of Lahore. They feel safe even if they use like chinchi, they want a separate place. They don't want to sit with men. It's also our culture actually. So where your culture allow, you need to provide them. For instance, right now in metro buses, they just design on international standard, Chinese design that buses. Did they like research on it? Do we really need a buses where men and women can sit together? No. So it's bad. So women need actually a separate place, and also government need to focus on the bus stops as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ikra. Okay, so we have ensured that our discussion is more inclusive, and so we have a youth participation also in this. And next, Abdul Wahab is going to share some of his work with us. Abdul Wahab.
Okay, Miss Aisha, let me share the screen, please. Is it visible?
Yes, it is.
Hello. Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Aisha, for having me. Miss Amna. Okay.
Yeah.
My apologize. Thank you, Miss Amna, for having me in today's session, and it was very productive. And I have learned a lot of things from my seniors. And I would just skim through the presentation and try to put forward my vision, whatever we are doing in Planning It Pakistan. Actually, Planning It Pakistan was actually one of the vision when I was in my degree last year during the degree, and I constituted a team within my classmates, and we work together day and night. So we are a bunch of young students. They are now like more than 10 students in the meantime. So we work together and we launch this platform, and we are working on it. So Planning It Pakistan, as it is clearly seen that our slogan is serving Pakistan to achieve SDGs. So we work for SDGs. Not all of the SDGs, but we focus on some of the SDGs within our capacity. So actually SDGs were set by UN in 2015, like to, as the economies of the world is flourishing. So we have to preserve the resources, because every day the resources are being exploited. So we have to preserve them. So this was the vision that was that UN had in 2015, and all the countries in the world are working on it. So I believe that being an urban planner, and SDG really plays an integral role in urban planning as well. So this is actually our vision, and we focus on nearly 6 goals. First one is, goal number 5th, which is about gender equality. We induct more women in Planning It Pakistan, and we also create some of the events. Like one of the project we did in Dajal, we promote women education in that remote area, and we are working on this SDG in the meantime. And the SDG 6, which is about clean water and sanitation, we partially completed this project with the help of Suki 222 International, and I will be putting a light on that later in our next pages. And SDG 9 and 11, which is about industries and innovation and sustainable cities. respectively. So we have just started to conduct some of the research in these goals, and we work with LDA as well. Like we put a light on through the documentaries, and those glimpse will be shown in our next pages. And then we have thrown a lot of tree campaigns within Lahore and out of Lahore with the help of many organizations. And we have achieved a lot of milestone in goal number 13. And now we are collaborating with different organizations. We have collaborated some international organization and within our country, and some companies as well, so that we can work on this common and noble goal. So these are our services that we provide. Basically, one of the things that we do is we do inventive research work to support SDGs, and whatever the finding that we have. In the meantime, we are working on rooftop gardening and water conservation plans. And what we do is that whatever the thing that we have discovered, we don't just abandon that and just just save it, but we promote jobs as well. We create jobs for the people. That is also SDG goal, to decrease the poverty. So another thing is that which we do, we don't abandon the document, as I said earlier, and we just disseminate the information through our documentaries. As we have created nearly 10 to 12 documentaries in the meantime, and these documentaries had played very important role in our societies. And I believe that social media is one of the most influential tool that we can use to support our SDGs goal in Pakistan and across the globe. Because in Pakistan, if I talk about developing countries, those people really cannot distinguish between what is right and what is wrong. So we have to work from the very basic part. Whatever the project you bring, whatever you do in the room, that can never be implemented or sustained unless or until the people, the local people, realize it and they integrate it with our projects. So through our documentaries, we try to make them realize that whatever they are doing, it has some kind of implications, some kind of repercussions that we are going to end up very badly. So then whatever the projects we are doing with the partnership of different organizations, it completes our goal number 17, to partner with different organizations within Pakistan and out of Pakistan. So the reason why we partner, because some of the thing the other organization need from us, and some of the abilities that we have, we provide our services. So it is something that we are working on our common goal, and that can be made successful through the partnerships. So the partnerships are also the integral part of our work. And then what we do is that we update on urban planning news on daily basis. So these are the four major components and sports that we have in planning at Pakistan. And these are our collaborations. We have worked with grana.com because in our goal number 13 to and we really wanted to, and we also are working in the meantime to revert our Lahore status into the city of gardens. It has been obsolete, and it's been very long that it was known to be the city of garden. Now it has become a city of concrete, and we are working to revert that status to within our capacity. So we worked with grana.com, launched many tree campaigns within Lahore and out of Lahore, in Dejihan, in southern Punjab, and many areas. And then what we did, we collaborated with Asian Consulting Engineering and DAR, which is an international company that makes master plans. And then we collaborated with LDA on documentaries. And one of the integral pivotal role that we played in documentaries was to promote public partnership and public involvement in master planning. So these are some of the glimpses that in the first picture on the very left side, you can see that people, some of the senior officers in LDR are watching our documentary, and a lot of information they have gathered from our documentary. And that we have met with Mr. Douglas, Mr. Saeed Sohani, and they put forward their vision, whatever they are doing in master planning of Lahore. So, and these are the other pictures that we have done so far. And this was the thing that we have done internationally, Suki 222 International, which is an UN, which is a US based organization that works for SDGs, and majorly they provide 2 gallons of clean water a day and 2000 calories a day, and they have the vision to provide secure shelter of 2200 square feet cubic feet of secure shelter. So we have worked a project in Dajal, which was the most remote city of Pakistan, and people used to drink water from canal, and the drainage also merges with canal as well. So it was kind of very pathetic situation there, and we have dealt it very well, and we provided them filters, and they were very we were kind of angels to them, because everything got changed when we reached them, and we provided the filters in madrasas, in schools, in homes, and all that, and all the documentaries are available on our channel as well. You can see that. So in the meantime, we have launched this project, and now we are working on food efficiency in Pakistan. Our research work is going on the agriculture part and some other SDGs to provide jobs in Pakistan through these projects. And these are some of the pictures you can see. We throw the meetings all the time, and in the downside, you can see the map where Planning Aid Pakistan has successfully completed its project in Pakistan, and we are the one who brought Suki 222 in Pakistan, which is working across 16 countries around the world, and they have the vision to work in 22 countries. And we were also on the news in Dijihan, because we have done a lot of things there, and we really got an eye from the news channel as well. So and now we have another plan to implement another big project in Dajal upcoming time, and in Sindh as well. So it is a matter of a month again. So these are the other milestones that we have achieved. We have launched a lot of tree campaigns, and then what we did is that we resolved and regenerated the green belt in Ilama Iqbal Road in Dharampura, which was full of garbage thrown by our daily vendors. So what we did, we collaborated with PHA, we collaborated with LWMC to clean that green belt, and so we work together on that. So there are other we also compose the documentaries and work for preservation of our heritage as well, and other problems that we are. So what we do is that we collaborate, we compose documentaries, research work, and we do projects as well. So it is about doing something different out there, and creating an opportunity for other people in terms of SDGs. So these are our research work that we are in the meantime working on, water conservation plan and the rooftop gardening in Lahore. And these are the research work that we will end up with a lot of opportunities at the end. So this is our website. You may visit it. Everything you will be finding there. Our team members, our advisory board, our projects, whatever we have done previously, and what are our achievements are. We are also on different social media platforms. You may visit us, and I would be really very happy to collaborate with any of the organization in terms of urban planning and anything. So we are a bunch of competent team members, and we have done a lot in the history, and you can witness it through our website. So we are youngsters, but that doesn't mean that we are not professionals. So yes, this is Abdul Wahab Beg, and I am done speaking. Thank you.
Zabardast, Abdul Wahab, great. That was great. Thank you so much. Okay, so next we have Hasban Sari. She is an architect. And
sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yes, absolutely. Please.
I have a question to Abdul Wahab. Although Abdul Wahab, I really appreciate the work that you have done. It's a really amazing body of work. But maybe I have understood your point, so I want you to clarify on it. There's this approach which is a very, you can say it's a very technical or conventional approach, which is very common in the development sector, be it UNESCO or all the any NGOs or CBOs which are working in our country, especially the global south, that we tend to believe that community is something which needs your help, and you are here as the, you can say, masiha. I'm like, they are not capable of number one, identifying their problem, number two, responding to their problem in a very effective way, and number three, I'm like, they're not equipped to find solution and implement it as well. And we always portray, be us, the experts or the field experts or the development sector, always portray ourselves as the experts, that we understand the community and their problems better than the community themselves. So is this the kind of approach that you guys are following in Planning Aid Pakistan, or you're going towards an alternative approach, which is a rather new approach where you want the community to take the lead and, you know, do the work, and you just assist them in whatever they are doing?
Yes, actually, in the meantime, you know, as I mentioned that we just started with the SDGs, and you know, in the outset, we did not know what was good for us and what was the strategy that we shall be working in. But you know that through the meetings, we finalized that okay, this research work is one of the most important thing that we can help SDGs with, and then the documentaries. So what we did, that we launched the research work, whatever the findings we have, we then you know, convey our message to the public, and you know, disseminate and impart the information to the public so that they can be involved in these projects as well, if they are willing to. And then what thing we do is that we collaborate with different organizations, and we just implement those projects and make a final report. And you know, this is our methodology in the meantime that we have adopted. So I believe in the meantime, in Pakistan, I haven't found anyone who is following this cycle that we have created, and we are trying to improve and edify ourselves each day through, you know, different findings, as we are youngster and it is our outset. We just recently completed our project, and it was like the platform was started last year. So it's been in a development, you know, period of time. So we are learning a lot of things. We are adaptable. We are, you know, trying to have a focus, and with commitment and, you know, the passion. And every day, whatever we do, we are very, very invigorated, and we are achieving our milestone each day. Thank you.
Thank you, Wahab.
Okay, great. Before I invite Asba, Shiza Tanveer has a question from Ikra Rafiq, I guess. Shiza, please go ahead and ask what you want to ask.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. It's good to see the efforts from Amna and Ms. Fawzia, that all the town planners and like-minded people have come up here and discussing about the conscious cities and city problem. And I really appreciate the research work of Ikra on women mobility. I'm also working, I'm an urban planner and environmental manager, and also working on hackathon related to women mobility. So I'm working on designing a digital solution for inclusive and safe women travel. So the reason to join this session was to gain some insights and thoughts from different stakeholders related to women mobility. So my question is not only from Ikra Rafiq, but if anyone from you, because all of you are expert in your fields and are very experienced. So if anyone can put thought on my question, that would be great. The question is that on one side, we talk about inclusive spaces for women, inclusive transport and inclusive women mobility. And on the other side, we talk about gender segregation and allotting separate spaces for women in public transport and spaces. So can both these things can work together for our vision for inclusive cities and transport?
Yeah, can I answer?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So you talk about like inclusive and gender discrimination. Sometimes it's called positive discrimination. So positive discrimination in that sense, like, yeah, we want, like, at the same time we want equality, like women and men the same, the same proportion on every field. Okay, but at the same time, we are talking about inclusiveness. At the same time, we are talking about discrimination. So sometimes I already mentioned it during my presentation, when it's important to provide an inclusive net, a separate place, if women want, then provide it. Because some researches, background in international studies also suggested that if there is important, then provide it. Since it's contextual, for instance, if we say, if we just go to the more backward areas, villages, or maybe not Lahore is the some kind of progressive city actually in Pakistan, I found. But if you go to the different areas where I don't think so, even women itself want to sit with the man, even their family members, even their husband and parent does not allow them to use that transport where both sit together. So in this case, how can you improve women mobility? So you have to then make a step. Actually, it's called positive discrimination.
Can I add a point?
Yeah, sure.
I think there are two things which should which go hand in hand. That, as Ikra is saying, that we should, when women are comfortable, we should provide them with alternative segregated mode of mobility. But I think on the other hand, it is very important to raise awareness and to, hone the behaviors of the people so that, okay, not tomorrow, but maybe after 5 years, we can have a system where at least we can respectably sit next to each other as opposite genders and we can travel. Because I think a long-term solution cannot be the solution which would segregate the two and go, and encourage the mobility.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
long-term solution is going to have another aspect as well. Okay, just provide them with the alternative mobility option, but on the same time just keep working towards the goal where you will have the gender inclusive mobility. I have traveled as an experiment in the metro, the orange lane, sorry, and I have usually done it on Sundays. I don't know about the experience of the people who use it daily, but on Sunday it's a kind of orange lane is a kind of mode of transportation which to me is not a gender segregated, with
Yes,
an
definitely.
exception of with an exception of few uncomfortable staring experiences which will not make you very uncomfortable, providing the kind of experience you feel it every day. I think the behavior of the opposite gender, the male gender, is really very appreciable. I'm like, so, you have provided a space where maybe they have trying to learn to how to be respectful for the another gender as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I've also observed one thing that in
Shiza, we can't hear you.
what's
We
like
lost.
towards women, and if we say local bands like Chinkies, the role of transport and a good transport good toward the mentality and behavior while traveling.
Thank you, Shiza. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, a quick.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, are you satisfied with the answers? Okay. A quick introduction of Asban Sari. Actually,
Yes,
she's an
yeah.
architect and, in fact, a placemaking leader in Pakistan. She started the placemaking movement, and in January, she started this Making It Happen show, in which she invited placemaking leaders from all over the world and talked about making an impact and creating change. So she's going to share some inspirations from that show. Please, Asba.
Assalamualaikum everyone, and I'm so glad to be here again this year. Thank you so much for inviting me, Amna. I hope you all can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. Okay, so making it happen show lessons. Okay, so the way I'm going to proceed is I will share my article very quickly. Supporting each other no matter what. We are just towards all the parties, and we make choices for our communities and our cities that are beneficial for all and can be maintained in long term. And the thing that we have to keep in mind is that there's a possibility that Lahore can rise, and it is already doing. It is already rising. And when we see that by this time, we have to see that the components are interdependent. It's not that we can achieve one thing without focusing on the other, or why, or without considering the other. So how I have come to this statement, I'll share in my article very quick this week, inshallah. So stay tuned for that as well, because there were so many thoughts that came to me, and then I came up with the statement. Okay, so what is placemaking for me? It's a global movement, yes, but how I define it for myself is that it is a process of creating places with all love, we all love, with the people living in the places. The process that keeps evolving with time and never ends. Okay. Now about the Making It Happen show, the purpose behind, or the idea behind the Making It Happen show, was to talk to people who are the global leaders, the leaders actually, who are doing things, who are doing great things for people and their communities, and to learn from their stories that how they made things happen. That's the idea behind the Making It Happen show. And there are two series. One is the international series, and the next is the Pakistan series, in which I've been meeting people in Pakistan. And the first episode is out in October, and the second is coming very soon, inshallah. So this show is about international guests, the lessons I've learned from international guests, and their stories, and the takeaways, which are the lessons. The way I will sharing are, there are 6 key lessons, and the way I'm going to share them is by narrating their, or by quoting their sayings, like what the guests have told me, and I'll be sharing some pictures from abroad, that things are happening they are, and the way they are doing it. So I hope that you can relate the narration and the pictures yourself, so it is easier for you to listen to the podcast later on as well. I hope I do the justice, so bear with me till the end. Okay, so the first lesson is invest in small businesses. I've asked Ethan Kent and Michael Stott about how small businesses foster strong communities, and that's what they say. Ethan Kent is the global leader and the founder of the Placemakers Network, and he lives in New York. So he says that more diversified economies, or smaller scale economies, enable more resilience and innovation. Small businesses are really a foundation of placemaking. As you see the edges of a street or a path, there are small businesses, vendors, buskers, etc. All of them give back life to a place. It makes other people safe in a place. It creates identity and give people the opportunity to gather and interact, which generates vibrancy and liveliness as a result. On the contrary, big corporate models and retails take value and identity from the places rather than giving back to public realm. Also, small businesses offer more job opportunities than the big retails. During the COVID-19, main streets and downtowns have been reinventing themselves to be more affordable in New York. So this is the lesson we get from New York. Then Michael Stott, who lives in Australia, he says that small businesses are vital for community resiliency. In Australia during pandemic, it has been realized that placemaking can be a catalyst to produce better economic outcome for more people and more places. Now we know that vibrant places would make people to utilize their local services, which are small businesses. It's a right approach, right? We asked people about what retail or job opportunities would they like to have in their communities. that helps to build a great local community and thus local economy. Also, well-designed places make people feel good and included, and in return inspires them to invest in local community and their economic development. Doing activities around small businesses bring benefit not only to small businesses owners, but also the communities at large, bringing people together to generate ideas for betterment. This is a key lesson for recovery from pandemic, that is to invest in small businesses and local communities. With this approach, we can achieve resiliency and sustainability. So there were some examples that are happening around the globe in terms of investing in small businesses and creating vibrant places as a result. Next lesson was basic general one. Small actions have greater impacts. This is something that Michael Stott and I have been discussing before the event as well, and this is something I believe myself. So here we are with the Peacemakers Pakistan initiative. Okay, so small changes create greater impact. Doing small acts is better than doing nothing. More livable places were created after small efforts when people took ownership of their places. Small interventions, even something done by a person for other one, can make him feel a part of a community, like a shop owner who leaves a bowl of water for people with pets. How great is the small act of kindness and gives people the sense of inclusiveness, a feeling of belonging in the community. Small moves empower people because it gives people the feeling that they belong and that they can actually make change for themselves and the opportunity to participate in making the change happen. We can actually make our environment better around us and shape our lifestyle by making decisions and taking small actions. These little moments of interaction really make people to lead acts that create their places more healthy, lovable, and livable. So these are some examples of some insights or some I say moments of kindness that we see around, and if we only see around, and for that we have to slow down from our rush routine to notice our environment. Things are happening, we are just not focusing. Thus, we are so hopeless that we say things about our city, our country, that doesn't do justice to what we already have. Based on the first two, and especially the small acts, we had this forced placemaking event this year. And how did we come to it? Lucinda Hartley, the founder of the Forced Placemaking Week initiative, and she lives in Australia. She says that the idea originated from Australia in April 20, during the first lockdown when the world was closing due to the COVID. We were spending time at home and missing public spaces where we used to gather, so we thought of inspiring our neighbors for social gathering from a safe distance and premises of our homes, the small projects. Then the Global Placemaking Network was taken on board and people participated, and there were 230 projects in the span of 3 weeks. Small-scale projects that shows that the heart of placemaking is indeed in them. As placemaking emphasizes on social life as a backbone of the society. Thus, this approach of forced placemaking show that the great signs of hope and the power of social connection, the feeling of belonging and togetherness. And this is something that we have seen in this COVID. And we also participated, the Peacemakers Pakistan Network also participated, and we had some interviews in Pakistan, and we have made a documentary by covering some activities and some projects that people are doing as a routine life. Like they don't know about forced placemaking, but they are doing from their porches and their balconies, etc. So I would recommend that you do watch the video. It's named as Magical Happenings in the City of Lahore. And do follow up with the Making It Happen show, the Pakistan series. So how cool is that? And this is Lucinda Hartley. She is doing her forced placemaking talk this year from her porch. And you can see how she has just set up her network. Vulnerable, she can easily be seen by the people. Okay, so the next topic or the next lesson is villages in the city. I have talked to Nidhi Gulati, who was born in India, but now lives in abroad and has been traveling to different countries and studying in different countries and has a broad knowledge. I would recommend that you listen to that episode as well. Okay, so she says that villages in the city is something that became very prominent during COVID. Around the world, people were not traveling that like they used to because everything shut down. We had to isolate. It really reduced our life and footprint to our home and our neighborhoods. And this showed us that we really need some smaller footprint, but not all have the ability to do it. Like people have to travel to their jobs, and people who lived in resources starved neighborhoods, their grocery stores, schools were in 15-minute cycle. Didn't have the ability to do that either. They didn't have the ability to make their small footprint small. But it showed us that this is something that is possible and can be done. And if you can shorten the footprint of your daily activities, you can shorten the overall footprint on the environment as well that we need to work on, of course, for the climate change. There's so much research on how we can create a lifestyle in the form of a village, like the 15-minute city or 20-minute city. That's how the solar settlement used to be. And from placemaking perspective, your neighborhood has to be a place where people can have a sense of belonging and a place where people can wrap their head around, where you know the people around and feel belonging and ownership completely. This is how we used to live. So it is possible. This can effectively help us to tackle the sustainable issues that we are facing. For example, the sustainable mobility for people and planet. And if we achieve that, then even the goods that travel around the country, that issue can be solved as well. So here are some examples, and this is something just I took from the internet just to show that there's a complete research. Like don't have to start from the scratch. We can learn lessons from the people directly at this stage. Okay, so the fifth lesson is people need connection and belonging to thrive. This is something which is very important and vital. The reason why I came towards public spaces advocacy, because I was the mental health advocate first, then the public space advocate. I asked Jia Pengli, who lives in Malaysia, that what is the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the importance that she had from it, because her organization is based on the complete system as well, the hope as well. Okay, so she says that place strategy that we work on and that we focus on is that really great places, they are where people feel that they belong. In Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he talks about security as the bottom layer, then food as next layer, and third layer is belonging or connection. And the fourth layer is self-actualization, which is most important and vital. And his theory is that without the first basic two layers and the third layer, you cannot achieve self-actualization, which is for any individual to reach their full potential and serve the community. But Jia Pengli says that I think sometimes even when you don't have the shelter, if you have belonging, it's smoother to self-actualize. We have seen that those who have food, shelter, and basic necessities, they become predators or who become not so well-adjusted people in the society. And we have also seen refugees who had no shelter. They became great contributors to society where they self-actualize, become spiritual or do great things. So it's all about building connection and belonging. That's what places do. You keep going to places where you feel that sense of belonging. That is the power that places and the community that resides in the places do. It's all about human connection and humanity ultimately, because people do need belonging and connection. And self-actualization is something which is the driving force behind the Peacemakers Pakistani on a personal level, because the main idea was to reach full potential and to serve community and to inspire others to do as well. So this picture basically is actually some activity happening in a refugee camp. People did an act of kindness to make them feel that they belong. You see them, you can't expect what they have been through, but you can make things better for them now. And the next thing I would say that can we imagine such place in Lahore right now, like it's a square in the metropolitan area, and it's like a high-end, high-rise area, but we can't imagine even that we can make it possible. Or of course, taking action comes later, but we have to think about it first. And can we even think that we would allow people, the youngsters or the adults, to be this insane or this vulnerable? But they have the right to be. If they have the sense of belonging, the connection, the trust, they can actually be vulnerable and open to in the society. And we have to have that target in our mind that this should happen. Last point would be the child-friendly cities. Okay, so Viviana Cordero, I invited her to my show because I love her work, and the whole episode was about this. So I'll just share one lesson because I asked her what is meant by child-friendly cities to her. She said that for me, it's making sure that the needs of the children are covered, spaces where children can feel safe on their own, where they can independently move in space, and to understand what they need or what they need in the common sense or in their daily life. You can study the city at eye level book. It's highly recommended. Okay, and the secondly, she says that it's about governance of place, like how many children can participate in creating their place and how government provides them with their rights, like access to school, access to play, access to water, basic necessities, and us and anything like government role as well. And then third component would be, which she says it's new to child-friendly cities, but child-friendly topic, but it is important to her, which is intergenerational justice, which means that including children in the decision-making process when we are making visions for 2030 or 2050, anything, we have to have them involved as well. Because we have to ask them, what do you want? And let them know that they have the agency, they have the right, they have the potential to contribute and to advocate for their dreams and to set foundations for the possibilities in future. Because as I see, this thing is, if we don't know what the children need, how as adults we can create room or the opportunities for them in the future. Makes sense, right? So my point would be that, my point would be that planning cities that are child friendly, I believe, is the right way to set foundations for a city that will not only be safe and great and lively and fun, not only in the near future, but it will be sustainable at great level in the far end as well, in the long term as well, if we make our vision and efforts accordingly. This is the whole field of studying, and amazing people are working in it. So I would suggest to listen to the whole interview and to navigate and to find more work around it and just contribute in it as much as possible. So these were the 6 takeaways from the Making It Happen show, from 11 episodes so far. And there were many lessons, but I just chose these 6 lessons because they are easy to implement and we can get our hands on it very quickly, if we will. So lastly, the PP conviction or the Peace Leader Pakistani conviction is that placemaking and an individual's growth is a lifelong journey that shouldn't be planned or judged, but devised as you move along the path with people you share your vision with. And it takes time and you have to accept it. You can't just expect things to happen just now because we are doing it. No, it takes time. It will take time. It is happening and it should heal. We need a lot of healing and that takes time. So we have to leave room for every possibility, for everything that comes our way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Azwa. We really appreciate your efforts. Yeah, really. Okay, so we're done with all of the speakers and we will actually end the session now with some concluding remarks from Amar Jafri sir. He is the founder of Digital Pakistan, chairman of SDGs Academy Pakistan, and he has been doing a lot of work for Pakistan actually. Sir Amar, are you there? Please.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you, Amaji.
Awesome.
First, I would like to congratulate the speakers, the organizers. Amna and Fazia, you have today set the pitch and tone. Let me repeat again. Pitch and tone of what is now the future of Lahore and now future of Islamabad and other cities also. Actually, it was so engaging and so rewarding for me, frankly speaking, that I couldn't stop listening it even for a minute. So that was the credit goes to the speakers, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy to see that things are going so well, and now I'm so much impressed with the youth of Lahore. Now I started my journey in Lahore at the age of 18 when I reached Lahore to do my first masters in Punjab University. So Lahore hai, and I'm so happy to see that the youth of Lahore is there now to take charge of the future of Lahore. And I think Fawzia and Amna, you both have taken the right step. Please keep the good work up and my all support, whatever I can do. But rather you should start talk about Karachi, Peshawar, Quetta, every city, because every city of Pakistan is very dear to us. And we have to prove to the world that we are worthy of not holding this country as a very progressing country, but also we can set the example for other countries. Very briefly about the topic we are discussing, actually, I could very well see that everything is now encompassing the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. While SDG 9 and 13 are exactly what we are talking right now, but even the other SDGs, if we talk about 3, 4, 1, 2, anything, but now the climate change is becoming very important because we'll have to understand that whatever we are talking today is now with reference to what we know today about our environment. But the climate change is going to badly affect, let me tell you, badly affect the environment we are having right now. So with these closing remarks, I will again congratulate Amna, you, Fazia, you, and especially the speakers. I cannot figure out one speaker because everybody spoke so well. Everybody spoke so well. I'm thankful that this is a recorded event, and definitely I would like this recording to be shown to the universities people, to the students who are doing, because you started from the designers of the cities, you started about the professionals, and then people talk about the functionality of the city. Then they talked about the transport issues and the gender balance issues and all these things. So it was so engaging and so rewarding that no two opinions that you have set the pitch and tone of whatever the living cities should be, because we are living in a world where there are a lot of stress around us. You can stress, you can feel the stress, but at the same time, we have to leave our cities in a better position from where we received it. I thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all the speakers, for participating in this event and for being part of this event. We learned a lot of you, and we are really looking forward to having you again in the future. Thank you. Actually, after this, we are having Islamabad event like at 7 p.m. So if you would like to stay, you can. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting us, Amna.
Thank you, Amna. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.